To talk about this game, though, I'm very excited to see what the new offensive approach is going to be for Alex Atkins in Florida State. Some of the stuff I was reading about, it was projecting that the stuff that, and we talked about this offseason, that the approach is going to be far more ground and pound. It's going to be run the ball as much as possible, build a lead, bleed out the clock, more Big Ten style football. And if you look at the way that this running back room has been assembled, one of the things that we applauded after the spring game was how deep it feels that the running back position is. I think they're going to have an easy time running the ball in this game. I think it's going to be relatively lower scoring because of this and because that field is typically a little bit slower. They're playing in Ireland. They're playing on a soccer field. Hasn't been exactly a ton of great weather conditions the times that they've played in Dublin. I need to see what DJU does, though, when he's called upon. When they need him to make big splash plays. It doesn't seem like there's necessarily an answer on who the number one receiver is right now, but they're trying to figure that out. This is the opportunity to do so. I think the biggest thing, though, that I look at, and I know that you just grimaced at when I said that I thought they were going to have an easier time running the football. I watched Georgia Tech's spring game, and I frankly, I wasn't, there was nothing about their defensive line or their defensive general that really flashed to me.
If you're talking about this game, then okay. If you're talking about overall in the season, which is why I grimaced.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not there. Jordan Travis bailed you out of a lot of things in the running game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like that, Joe, same thing that people talk about with the team that they started off the season with last year. Jaden Daniels bailed you out in the running game.
Yeah.
So did Jordan Travis. I'm with you. Okay. I just think from top to bottom, Florida State is more athletic at pretty much every position.
Yeah.
However, I know that we poo-pooed on, or you poo-pooed on, not necessarily me, on Haynes King. He's got to get the interception.
Well, no, hold on.
It was you.
There's a clip out there that Georgia Tech fans tag us in every so often of me nodding while you're making fun of his throwing motion. It was you way more than it was me.
Okay, I didn't say anything bad. I was making fun of his throwing motion. Okay,
yeah, you didn't say anything bad. Well,
his throwing motion was so bad. I mean,
it's gotten a little bit better. I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's gotten a lot better.
Okay.
Here's the thing, though. It's not missed on me that the kid scored 37 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's boom or bust with him. Joe, if he gets those turnovers down, then what? And I'm not saying that they're going to win. I'm not saying that. I do feel like it might be a little bit closer than maybe some people are just logo watching and didn't break down these teams. We're going into week 0. It's 11 a.m. kickoff. Mm-hmm. I'm with you to the extent. I don't know if I do think the game is close. I don't know if it's as close for the same reason that you're thinking. Let me tell you why. You said that they're going to run the football, meaning Florida State a little bit more at will than maybe some would perceive going into this game. My thing is I think that Haynes King and this Georgia Tech offense will sustain some drives on this defense early, because, look, you got everybody returning. I don't think Haynes King played bad a year ago. I think that he just had so many bad moments, so many moments where you're like, bro, where did that throw come from? Like, there are times last year when you look at him throwing the ball in the back of the end zone, a corner route, it's like on a dime. And you're like, dude, NFL dudes don't make those throws from 45 yards out. And then you look at him and he's making those turnovers, those silly mistakes, the 16 interceptions. So the kid can run, though, too. And anytime that you have a kid, a mobile quarterback that can run and will run, sometimes that can benefit a team that is not as talented. I'm just very interested to see every single piece that we have I have question marks on Florida State. You got to replace a really good running back. You got to replace two dudes inside, or two guys on the left side of your defensive line. I know you got better. I know you hit the portal like crazy. But, Joe, I kind of need to see it when you're replacing that kind of talent too.
You hit the nail on the head with the second point that I had going into this game relating to Haynes King. I think that, and we were some of these people, that just assumed that he wasn't really going to do much at Georgia Tech. He's a lot better, and Georgia Tech doesn't get a lot of national coverage, so I don't think a lot of people remember and even know this
last year. I
Yeah.
mean, like they had a winning season, and for that place,
Yeah. The stats that Haynes King put up last year, he didn't really get recognition for it. I think he is a great quarterback for a team like Georgia Tech. And I think that, to your point, is going to help them sustain some drives to put some points up on the board. As you have explained here, there's going to be some logo watching where some people are going to look at this and think, oh, this is going to be a 30-point blowout because we're just used to seeing Georgia Tech not be good in these types of matchups. Don't see that happening at all. Do I see Florida State winning by 2 touchdowns? Totally. And do I see them just kind of controlling the clock and playing the game, their game, and trying to get a feel for, who they are? I really like for Florida State's case in this situation that they're not like Notre Dame last year playing against a team like Navy or just a nothing team that the outcome of it, if they blow past them, they're not going to really get to learn their identity. They get to go up against a team that's going to put up a fight, but is defeatable for them. One final thing here. I know that you're wary of the departures that they have on the defensive side of the football. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Jared Verse is gone. Braden Fisk is gone. Those are guys, and they've got a lot of movement happening at the linebacker position. It sounds like they're very high on what they have at linebacker from some of the things I was reading today. But, dude, I'm telling you, man, I rewatched that spring game. I really think that Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. in this game are going to tee off. I think that they are going to have a huge freaking game, man. I am so hyped up to see what that pass rushing duo is going to do because both of those guys, if they hit their ceilings and they improve the way that they can improve, they both could be first-round picks this year, which is crazy to say for a defensive front.
I don't know if they're going to tee off. I mean, they could, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. However, I got to ask you this. Mm-hmm. If there are crucial situations and Georgia Tech does hold this offense, though, okay, on critical third downs, again, are you trusting DJU? Because you're putting far too much credit. Look, here's a hot take. You ready? After we saw Haynes King last year, okay, how much of a drop-off is it from DJU to him?
Wait, you're saying how much of a drop-off is it from Haynes King
DJU
to DJ? Okay, let's hold on. Look, DJU has his struggles, and we have been very critical of him, but he is not worse than Haynes King. Come on, we can't. No, but
Joe, Haynes King had 37 touchdowns last year.
He had a good season last year. DJU is not
37 touchdowns in the Power 5 at a quarterback is not a good year. It's borderline. Joe, he's 3 away from 40 total touchdowns, dude.
DJU is I would take DJU before I would take Haynes King.
I didn't argue that. I didn't argue that. What I'm saying is that are you going to be surprised if DJU in a new offense and a new system, game 1 at 11 a.m.
No, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, well, you didn't even let me finish, but has struggles on a third down situation, which is we're talking about, okay, Florida State defensively, they're going to tee off. Again, Joe, what DJU are we going to get? At some point, it's going to either finally he developed and finally the light clicked on, or it's going to be like new year, same DJU.
I don't think that Florida State needs that. I don't think that they need the 5-star premier one-game glimpse of DJU that we saw his freshman year where everyone thought he was the next coming of Big Ben. I don't think that we need him to ever get to that, and I don't think Florida State needs that. I think, to your point, if Georgia Tech wants to keep this game close and to pull off the upset, they need to defend the run really aggressively, and they need to force him into as many third and longs as possible as they can get. And this is what's important here. It's not just DJU. It is the whole passing attack that they are now trying to figure out who the next receiver is that they can lean on, or guys that they can go to because Johnny Wilson and Cam Coleman are gone.
And almost that part the entire run game.
I'm not worried about the run game. The run game is going to be fine.
Roydale Williams is a good back. He's not Trey Benson.
Their
He's
run game's
not.
going to be fine. I'm not worried about their run game.
Okay.
I don't think
I'm
that's
not-
going to be as much of an issue.
Watch him blow him out.
Watch Florida
Georgia
State blow them
Tech-
out or Georgia?
Yeah, watch Florida State
Georgia-
blow him out. But if they do, I'm wary of all the things that they have to replace. More than a lot of
this is what
teams, man. Now, but hold on very quickly. They
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
lot
sorry.
of talent, though. They got a shitload of talent. You can't take away that Florida State's got a shitload of talent. I think they're going to win. I'm picking them to win. I just don't know if it's not closer than most are talking about, Joe. I'm sorry.
Well, I haven't heard anyone else do a preview yet. We're pretty early in on this. But I agree with that end part there of like, this isn't going to be a 30-point blowout. It's just not.
Okay.
The identity and the way that Florida State's going to play is not going to be like last year where they could just put up points in bunches.
Question.
Yes.
If the game is close, then what do we do? Then at the end of the game, what are we saying about DJU?
That's a very good
what is
question.
that-
If the game is close,
Then again,
What are you
so if we're both going to agree that the game is going to be
Mm-hmm.
close, that means that DJ did not overwhelm, right? That's what it's going to have
wait,
to
okay,
mean.
wait, define. Okay, when you say close, what is the point total that you would depict as close?
I would say 28 or 31, 21, 31, 24. I think they're a
I
touchdown
think it's going to
to
be
10
bigger
point.
than that.
And it might be. I could see 14 points too. But how's the 14 points divided? Or is Georgia Tech going on a score late in the game? They throw a pick because Haynes King doesn't figure out his turnovers. They get a pick six. I don't know. But I do think that Georgia Tech's going to be better. Bro, Joe, last year we thought Georgia Tech was going 3-9, 4-8. And they found a way to get to a bowl game and win it. I know that they had bad, tough losses like against Ole Miss. That's Ole Miss in year one. I know that you had a bad loss to Clemson last year. That's year one. But it wasn't, if you go halfway through those games, it was virtually tied in both. Joe, if you get a half of football, okay, where they're neck and neck, what are you going to do? I know what you'll do. Oh, it was a boat race. They kicked their ass, even though it's tied at halftime.
A tie at halftime in a week 0 game in another country. Okay, here you asked a question though a second ago, and I think that is very important. Hold on, it is a very important question to have. The question that you just asked is very important. If this game is 7 points or less, what does that tell us about Florida State? That's a really important talking point that we need to have here. If it is, I think that tells me that DJU probably did not play as good as many would have hoped, and maybe he has a couple turnovers or one turnover and he takes a couple sacks because he's holding the ball too long. If it's close, then I think it's a little bit reactionary to completely sound the alarm because, again, they're playing in another country at early kickoff in a completely different time zone. But I would say that we should absolutely start being concerned because this is on paper a game that Florida State should have no trouble winning because you just pointed out Florida State is talented across the board and they've got a ton of dudes. If they're held back by something, it's going to be trying to throw the football because they don't know who the next receivers are and because DJU isn't stepping up to the plate.
Now imagine it, Joe. Now imagine Georgia Tech has an entire team returning. I mean, they're returning damn near their entire team. Are they going to develop less? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, I think they're going to win. Okay, but I have an entire team returning, and then another entire team who has a shitload of talent. But do they have the cohesiveness? Like, by the way, Joe, here's another question. What do we learn week one about comms and helmets? Like, what do we learn about that? Does that help Haynes King? Do they go into the huddle? Like, those are all questions that I have personally.
Can we just take a second, though, to acknowledge the context of what 7-6 was for Georgia Tech? Can we just talk about it for a second?
Okay, that's my point. I think it's highly positive. I don't know how you're going to view it.
I mean, one of those games, they would have been The Miami game, if it wasn't for Mario, that does not go to Georgia Tech if it wasn't for the most insane
I
coaching
don't play
decision
in
that we've ever
non-realities.
witnessed. It is in the context of when we're trying to paint if a team is good or not, and a lot of those guys from last year came back. I think that they were a chippy, difficult to take down team, and that's the team that's going to show up in this matchup. Okay, but they're not.
I agree.
I really don't think they're going to be more than 6-7 this year. I really do, or not even. They wouldn't even get to. I don't even think they get to a bowl game. I think they're going to be 5-7 this year because that they have the third hardest schedule. I forget where they're on the ranking.
Yeah, they have a very tough schedule. Very tough schedule.
They have the hardest schedule that's a non-SEC team.
However, they had a hard schedule last year and beat 2 top 15 teams.
Dude, they beat Wake Forest, Bowling Green. They lost to Boston College. That was a good win.
They beat
Virginia
Miami
and Syracuse after they fired their coach.
Okay, Joe, in game 1, they lose to Syracuse by 5. That's game 1 of the Brent Key era. Joe, I don't think that they're going to get worse. I really don't. But you're acting like I'm saying that Florida State's going to lose.
No, I'm not. I'm just pushing back.
I'm defending it like I'm defending it like you think I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. But you can't say it's a 14 to 10. Do we?
Yeah, I'm
on YouTube or
Sorry,
Facebook?
I got distracted. YouTube, I got rid of him.
Oh. So Joe, you think it's a 14 to 10 point game, right?
Yeah, minimum 10.
Okay,
well, it's 11-point spread right now. I would take Florida State to cover.
Okay, fair enough. Even if it's inside 14 points in college football, that's not relatively a big you separated from them. Now, 14 points, it could look a lot different if you can't move the football. But we're not saying that Georgia Tech's not going to be able to move the football. They moved the football last year against some really good defenses. Hey, Joe, I'm old enough to remember when they put 23 on Georgia a year ago. I don't think that this team gets worse.
Well, that Georgia game, we all remember what happened in that Georgia game. That not the full starting lineup for Georgia was playing in that game.
True. They also played through 3 quarters too.
Okay.
I mean, did they not?
Yeah.
Actually, I remember watching. Joe, they came out the last 2 series, and then Kirby started trickling guys back in after they scored late and made it within a one score game. Bullshit.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd use that game as well.
You got the wildest imaginations. Okay, can I get to my last point here before we move on?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a 11-point game, 10-point game, we're going to come back out here on Sunday and say, same year, new year, same DJU.
Yeah,
we're going to do that.
I know that
we're going to do that. And so it is what it is. God, Florida State's going to hate my ass.
I would love for DJU to prove the doubters wrong. That's all I'm going to say. He's going to come out and
you're one of them. You're one of them. What are you talking about? You're literally one of them.
This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in, because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/trainingcamp or click the link in the description And you need to do it today because you can get the first month. Personal training's expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code Ruffino Joe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.